NIO stock was up 17% last week. It's up 26% on the month and up about 25% in the last 12 weeks. So it does look as if NIO is moving up and it's possibly starting a new uptrend. There's a trade entry available last week on Friday and also one approaching in the next few weeks. So in this video, I'm going to conduct a price analysis for NIO stock and offer some thoughts on some trade opportunities. Let's take a look. I'd like to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/DavidB for the 5 best stocks to buy now. Use my special link to get $200 off their epic annual subscription. Now, if you find value in my analysis of NIO stock today or other stocks on my channel, you may also find value in my email newsletter. If you subscribe, I'll send you professional trading tips to help you make more profits trading stocks. Link in the description below. Check it out. So last week, NIO was up 17%. It's up 26% in the last month. And you can see on screen on the daily chart, the last 10 trading sessions have been bullish, with NIO moving up considerably from this level of short-term support, 335, peaking out last session on Friday at 457. So a strong rise from NIO, and it is indicating that potentially it's broken a downtrend line and it might be looking to start a new uptrend. So if you've been looking at NIO for a while, waiting for it to find a bottom and potentially move up, it's worth now taking a closer look at this stock. It could be moving up in the next few weeks. Now, over on the weekly chart, we can see NIO has been trending down. It has been in a long-term downtrend for a number of years now, but focusing on the shorter time frame, we can see since this significant price peak of 771 back in September last year, so almost a year ago now, NIO has been trending down, creating lower highs and lower lows. It's moved down to this level here around 427, counter trend back up after reaching this level around $4. It made another peak there around 552 before being sold off again over the next few weeks. And eventually the sellers took NIO down to around about $3 support. That was when there was a big bar in this week here in the first week of April. Big green reversal bar showing support there for NIO and some buyers coming back in, seeing value at this $3 level. Now, since that time, price has been moving up steadily over the last few weeks. You can see since that reversal, it moved up once, twice, about 3 weeks. There was a sell-off again, but interestingly with NIO, it looks as if now sellers did come in after that peak, but they could only take the price down to this 335 level. So it does look as if now this is a higher base for NIO compared to this $3 level down here. So big question is that the bottom for NIO? Is $3 the bottom? It could be. This is the first higher base for NIO for a while. And also, it does look as if last week, price action poked its head above that medium-term trend line and it closed for the week, showing the buyers have come back in the last 2 weeks. Since this level down here around 337, last week was very bullish. Price opened at around 344 and it closed at 390. And then the week just gone, on Friday, it closed at around 438. So 2 strong weeks for NIO, and it has just poked its head above this trend line. So a significant trough down here, $3, it's made a higher base, and now it's broken that trend line. So these things do indicate that potentially the trend for NIO is changing, and it might be starting now to move up. Zooming right out on the weekly chart, we can see this downtrend line here is part of a longer trend over the past 4 years for NIO. Since that massive high of $66 back in January 2021, the stock was sold off heavily. But you can see more recently, this trend is slowing down. It has moved sideways in the last sort of 12 months between 330 and 550. A lot of price action moving sideways with a couple of breakouts. Now, more recently, we can see that since this trend coming down here, it tried to find support around 360. There was a counter trend back up. It was sold off again. It reached $3 and now it's come back up and it looks as if now it's forming a higher base at 335. Now look, it's still early, but watch this one closely over the next few weeks because it might be ready to go. So key price levels for NIO on the weekly chart. You can see I've already marked up that peak of 771. I've got 550 marked up there because of this peak here. I've got $3 down here with that price trough. And I've also got that 335 level. It looks as if this is short-term support for NIO. Above that, I've got marked up 951. I'm also going to mark up this peak here of around $16. That could be a target for a medium-term trade. So if you wanted to take a short-term trade with NIO, there's a couple of things lining up here to indicate that there is an opportunity. So the first thing is we've got that trend slowing down. We've got price finding support here in this trough of $3. We've had a big reversal bar. It's trended back up towards this trend line. There has been a sell-off and it's found a higher base. And last 2 weeks, bullish price action, and it's poked its head above the trend line. So, good signs for NIO. If you're using trend line rules, you could wait for perhaps next week for a second bullish bar to appear and close above this downtrend line. 2 closes above the trend line would be a decent rule to use, and you could enter the week after on confirmation. Another approach to use would be to use Dow theory. So you want to wait for a pullback after this initial price peak or spike to see what the sellers have got, to see whether they're going to take control and push the price down. And if they are, how far are they going to push it before the price finds support and buyers come back in? Basically, if this green bar next week, let's say it closes in theory around about 480, 490, that would be a good start. 2 green bars above the trend line, 3 weeks in a row up, that's bullish. We should expect then a red bar, 1 bar pullback perhaps to test the selling pressure. And if that red bar only, comes down, takes the price down to perhaps this close here, 438, so about 20% of the overall rise, that's looking bullish. You could then place your marker on that bar for that previous week as your entry trigger. So effectively, what we're saying is price is looking good here, it's finding support. Let's say next week closes high, so you've got 2 green bars above that downtrend line. Let's say it closes at 488 for argument's sake. The week after, we might get a red bar. Sellers might come in, perhaps if you bought down here or down here, you're taking profits. There could be some selling pressure to take the price down. Let's say there's a red bar and price is taken back down to 439, for example. Then, once you have that marker and that price peak here for that price action, you could use that as an entry and enter on confirmation once price takes out that previous price peak here. So in theory, that level there could be an entry to enter on confirmation. You've seen the price action find support, break the trend line, it's pulled back and test the sellers, and then the buyers have come back in, they've taken the price higher. So you're buying on confirmation the price is going up. So in theory, this trade setup on the weekly chart, you've got a potential upside of around 58% to that target of 771, and you can use a standard 15% stop loss. It could be a bit tighter than that depending on where the first red bar appears. You could use the bottom of that red bar as your stop loss. I think as long as it's over about 10%, that should give NIO enough wiggle room. overall that's a risk to reward of 3.69. However, there could be some short-term resistance at this level of 551. You can see here there was a counter trend back up, a bit of resistance there before it was sold off. So watch out for that level there if you take this trade in the next few weeks. And of course, if it punches through 771, there could be another target up there towards that $10 target with about 100% upside from this entry point down here in theory. Now, what about a short-term trade on the daily chart? Well, looking at the price action over here, once again, we can see that the price bounced off this level of $3 back in April. There was a number of bullish bars up before it was sold off. And you can see here on the daily chart, we've got this short-term support around about 335. So you can see it tested it here, big reversal bar on the 3rd of June, and also exactly the same on the 23rd of June. It found support and there was a big reversal. And once again, didn't quite hit it here on the 8th of July, but it came close, about 330. This is where NIO started to move up in terms of the daily price action. And we've had, since this reversal, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 sessions where overall, on average, it's moved up considerably. And you can see on this day here, so last Thursday, 17th of July, it broke the trend line and closed above it. So based on daily rules, you can see that after these movements up, price did reach this peak here just under that trend line marker, about 428. It did hit resistance there before there was some selling pressure on that Wednesday session. So opened high, it moved down, sellers had a really good go. They couldn't get it lower than 396 and buyers came back in and it ended up closing, quite a long way back up the bar at 411. And then the next session on the Thursday, so last Thursday, buyers came back in strongly and they took the price above that previous peak here, triggering an entry on the daily chart. If you use daily rules, you could have entered any time on that Thursday when price broke that high, or you could have waited for the daily close above the peak to enter on the Friday. So an entry on the Friday would have got you in here at 438. And you can see this trade set up on the daily chart. If you'd entered on confirmation, 438 on Friday on market open. Stop loss, you could have used this marker down here, the low of this bar here, and then target that 551 level above. So 25% upside with a 10% stop loss, risk to reward of 2.69. So a decent trade setup for a short-term trade with NIO. So those are my thoughts on NIO for this week. As I mentioned, a couple of trade opportunities. You could have entered on the daily on Friday and then target that 551. For more confirmation for a longer term trade on the weekly chart, you can see we want to have another bar above that trend line, possibly one pullback to test the selling pressure, then enter on confirmation, and then perhaps target 772. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you bullish on NIO? Do you think $3 is the bottom and now it's starting to move up? Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.